What's up YouTube? Welcome to the channel, John's Daily Hustle. Today we're going to do something a little bit different I've never done before, and I've never made a video on this channel about it. Today we're going to go do a big property cleanup, and it's going to be a top dressing. So we're going to top dress it with compost, we're going to aerate it, and of course before we do any of that we're just going to clean up the property. So this customer had 2 large trees cut out in her front yard, and obviously that left 2 big tree stumps. Well, the tree company came and mulched it up and just left an absolute mess between rutting up the yard and leaving all the mulch behind. So on this job we have to go and we're actually going to clean up all the mulch in the yard, and then we're going to level it out because there's actually a mount there from where the tree used to be. So we're going to clean up the mulch and we're going to level it out. And then we're going to bring compost in and we're going to top dress the entire yard. We'll aerate it and then we'll overseed it. So let's jump into this. I'm going to do the voiceover as I go. So starting right off the bat, here is what we started with. This is the one side of the yard. There's 2 sides of the yard. There's this one, and then it's separated by the sidewalk there. You can see all the mulch, and then there is the ruts that they left it in the yard. And you can see the little yellow flags there that we just started with. Those yellow flags represent a gas line that was underneath, so obviously I had to be careful and only dig by hand, and I couldn't bring any heavy machinery in, at least on that side. So here's the other side of it. It is a corner lot, so there's a good bit of size yard there, or a good bit of size yard, a lot of pretty decent sized yard there. And then what I was doing, as you just seen, I was just scooping it up with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and put it in my wheelbarrow. And luckily she had a spot in her backyard, this little garden here, the garden area, that I was allowed to dump it there. It took about 12 wheelbarrow loads of all that mulch and wood chips that I had to haul away and bring into the backyard. So here's the end product of cleaning up the wood chips and me raking it out, at least this side anyways. I had a rake and a hoe and I was just pretty much leveling it out and breaking up the ground. We just got a lot of rain the day before this, so the ground was pretty soft. And then here's the other side after I raked it out, and you can see how I really turned up that dirt and got it level. And it actually turned out pretty good, I would like to say. Now here was the hard part. I ended up hauling in compost and I was just dumping it wheelbarrow load after wheelbarrow load. You can see there on my trailer. And I was having to do that several times, loading it on the trailer and putting it in the wheelbarrow and basically dumping it in the yard. And then as I got closer to the road, I was able to just take my shovel and throw it off into the grass or into the yard and then rake it out. Now here you guys can see, this is where I'm actually taking my tarp and I'm putting it down over the trailer first to try and make cleanup a little bit easier at the end of the day or when the load is done. But here you're going to see I really overloaded my truck. You'll really watch it squat when the tractor pulls up and dumps it right here. It wasn't very easy on it, and you can kind of see it dropping right around there. And right there, you can see it dropping. This video doesn't really show how good it dropped. You can see it drop maybe just a little bit, but I think you'll see a video here in just a little bit on how much it really dropped. I'll show you like a side profile of it. And it's actually funny because the people that worked there said that 1 scoop only weighed about 1,200 pounds, and I would be good with 2 scoops on my trailer, and that is not the case at all. They put that 1 scoop on there, and that was about all I really wanted to put on that trailer. I don't think they accounted for how wet it was, because like I said, we got rain the day before this. So there was a lot of moisture in that compost there. So I think that added a lot of weight. And they even wanted to put a full scoop in the bed of my truck. And I told them absolutely not. There's no way my truck will haul that. And it was definitely pretty heavy, I guess you can say, right there. I could really feel it. So after hauling it away, it took about 6 loads. This is the end product when I was done top dressing the yard and everything was spread out. You can kind of see how well it looks. It's pretty even. The ground is nice and smooth and level, and there's just, a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch width of compost throughout the whole yard. And now, of course, I came back the next morning because I ran out of daylight that day after it was done, but I came back the next morning and I'm aerating it. What you guys are seeing, you're seeing me do like a small circle. That's because I had already started aerating this yard. So you might get thrown off as to why I'm not doing the full yard, but I actually already have. I've done most of it, at least 50% of this side of it. So this is just what I was doing right here. Now if you pay close attention both on this side and when I get to the far side of the yard on the other side of the sidewalk, you'll actually see there's still some roots in the ground. And there's, I believe, 3 roots total that are pretty decent size that I hit. And you might be able to hear it, and you might be able to see it, you might not, but I hit them all three of those roots pretty hard, and it kind of jarred my bricks off, and you'll actually see one of the bricks falls off, or the cinder blocks falls off on the back anyways, but just something to note I had to be careful of, and it was just one of those things, I had to make fun of myself for doing, because I knew they were there when I was top dressing it, but totally forgot when I started aerating. Anyways, I'm very excited to come back here in about 2 weeks just to see how well the grass does grow. I did not record me planting the seed, or I should say raking the seed in and actually applying the seed down. I overseeded it and I put a lot of seed down. It was good quality seed. It was expensive seed too, of course, but I put a lot of seed down too. So I'm very excited to see what it's going to look like in about 2 weeks from now when it really starts to germinate and after it starts growing. Now the other thing that I did off camera here was after I put the seed down, I ended up setting up the sprinklers for the customer as well. She has 2 sprinklers in the front yard and then there's one on the side yard just off camera to the left here. I ended up setting those up so it gets properly watered, because as my experience has told me last year is most customers do not water their yard or their fresh seed properly and it does not grow, and then they call you back and they're wondering why the yard's not growing, why the grass isn't growing, and it's like, well, did you water it? And they're like, well, no, and then you're like, well, that's the reason why, but they expect you to do something about it. As a side note right now, you see me back up right there with that aerator. I'm actually very impressed with my little trick that I did to it, or my little modification I did to the aerator. It does seem to be holding up so far on backing up and putting all that extra weight anyways, or at least it's not bending on me and snapping like it was last year. So we'll see long term how many more aerations I can do before I have serious problems with it. But as you guys can see, that side of the yard was a little bit of a pain in the butt. Right there is where the cinder block fell off when I hit that pretty hard root over there. There's a big root right over there, like I had said. It fell off and I kept hitting it every time I went by, so it was just one of those things. It's like I couldn't see it, but I just had to remember that it was there. So right at the end of this clip, I will show you guys the finished product as I'm driving away. Right here, as you guys can see now, that's what it looked like when I was done. There you guys got to see that job. I wish I set up the camera and actually had more working footage, like when I was actually scooping up the mulch and scooping up the compost and spreading it. But it was just a lot of work for one person to do, so I didn't have time to record. But I made a nice little chunk of change from that job, so I do plan on doing several more of these in the future. So I'll definitely try to bring you guys along the way. However, it definitely was a lot of work. It was good money, but definitely busted my butt doing that job. You know, like I said, I think it took 6 loads of that compost. I don't remember right off the top of my head. I believe it was 6 loads back and forth going from that place where the tractor dumped the compost on the trailer. It took 6 of those. And I don't know how many wheelbarrows full of compost that I actually loaded off the trailer and dumped in the yard, but it was a lot of compost. It was 6 cubic yards total, if that tells you anything. Looked at renting a compost spreader, but they actually didn't have them anywhere here in my area, unfortunately. So I couldn't rent one of those. And I looked at buying one of those compost rollers too, but for the first job and it being the only job I've done so far, I just didn't want to pay that price just yet. So that's the reason why I didn't get one of those either. Now, next time I'm probably going to rent some kind of tractor with a bucket on it, or a small tractor like a compact tractor or something with a bucket on it. And that's probably how I'm going to spread the compost from now on after that. And I'll just factor that price into the job, but we'll see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.